welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, it's been an interesting summer, June for the Supreme Court. They have made some excellent rulings in that, no, the legislature does not have the final say on redistricting, and that you still have to go through the court. So we were able to protect some voting rights. There were some things that they voted down that we didn't like, but I think the one, obviously, I want to hit on is the fact that the Supreme Court has basically said affirmative action is unconstitutional and has no value. CNN reports the Supreme Court says colleges and universities can no longer take race into consideration as a specific basis for granting admissions, a landmark decision that overturns longstanding precedent that has benefited Black and Latino students in higher education. Chief Justice Roberts wrote the opinion for the conservative majority, saying the Harvard and University of North Carolina admissions program violated the Equal Protection Clause because they failed to offer measurable objectives to justify the use of race. He said the programs involved racial stereotyping and had no specific endpoint. The majority opinion claims that the court was not expressly overturning prior cases authorizing race-based affirmative action, and suggested that how race has affected an applicant's life can still be a part of their application is considered. But even if the court did not formally end race-based affirmative action in higher education, its analysis will make it practically impossible for colleges and universities to take race into account, as the three Democratic appointees stressed in dissent. So, guys, I know there are a lot of y'all out there that say, well, maybe this is a good thing. Everybody can just go on their merits, and they can work really hard, and their hard work will be all that will be determined on whether or not they can get into a university or college. But guys, I hate to tell y'all something. That's not how it goes. So if you're talking about just the Ivies, right? Just the Ivies, the first and foremost is legacy kids are getting in. So are those legacy kids, do they have the same standard of admissions? Are they the best and the brightest? Or is it that their parents graduated and so they get to go there? Or what about the parents who can donate enough money to have their name on a library? Their kid gets to go there. Is that treating students equally? I think not. And since we have a history of being intentional in denying Black and brown people access to higher learning, I think we need to be just as intentional in granting them the access they need. But I hear y'all. But what's going to happen is the rates of Black and brown folks getting into school are going to drop, not because they're not capable of producing amazing work, because we already know that they are. That's not it. There's always, I would want to know, are the admission boards diverse? Or are all the admission boards a bunch of white folks as well? Do they have diversity? Because where you come from and your life experiences will help you determine whether or not an application deserves an opportunity or not. Because you may think that everyone has had the same opportunities you've had, and we know that's not true. So I'm a little nervous about this. We see what's happening in California. We see that the rates of applications in most medical schools for Black and brown folks have dropped. So I'm a little nervous and I'm a little concerned, but we'll see. I know what's going to happen, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, Justice Roberts, honestly, Chief Justice Roberts, I don't know if he has some kind of Pollyanna thing going on, but I do believe he thinks that racism in all its forms are gone. I mean, remember, in 2013, he wrote the majority opinion to gut the Voting Rights Act. And look what's happened in all these Republican-led states and how they are crafting new and inventive ways to deny access to the ballot. Now, I just wish they would put that much energy in devising ways to improve the lives of their citizens, but they put that energy into control and power by denying you your power at the ballot box. Same thing with Justice Roberts. He's been against affirmative action. He's been against Civil Rights Amendment. He's been against the Voting Rights Act forever, because in his mind, those things are things that happened in the past and they don't continue to happen. But if you look at the incarceration rates, don't tell me black folks commit more crime. Stop it. Stop it. People commit crime at the same rate in all races. It just depends on who gets arrested and who gets prosecuted and what the sentence is. So this is America. But the beautiful part is, y'all, even with this decision, we have an opportunity to make change. It may be rough for a while, but if we show up and show out at the polls, we can mitigate some of this. Because think about it. If we had showed up and voted for Hillary, I know y'all didn't like her. I didn't care. She was better than the orange man. He appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, and we've lost our courts for a generation. So we just have to start at the grassroots, start all over, don't sulk, and remember, this is not a quick fix. There's no quick fixes in this political thing. It takes us a long time to move. So we need marathon runners, not just sprinters. All right. Back to the border, because I care about everything of these 92 counties. The Indianapolis Star today this week printed a list of bills that will be going into effect July 1st. And I thought it would be a good idea to kind of run these down because they're going to impact your life directly here in Indiana. So here we go. Insurers must pass along drug rebates. If you have an individual health care plan, insurers must pass along at least 85% of the rebates they negotiate with drug manufacturers in exchange for covering their drug. For those who have a health plan through their employer, 100% of the rebates must be passed along, but the employer decides how to apply the savings. This is a good thing, y'all, because hopefully your employers are like, okay, we'll pass those savings on to everybody, and they'll disperse those things out, hopefully. Okay, throwing stars are illegal. A new Indiana law classifies throwing stars alongside knives and other sharp weapons. They can be legally possessed, but can't be carried on school property or a school bus. My mother always told me not to throw anything in the house. You might hit somebody in the eye. That throwing star does not sound like a good idea. Domestic violence suspects can't be released for 24 hours. Current law calls for an 8-hour cooling off period after domestic violence arrest. Under the new law, it's increased to 24 hours. Crimes included are battery, domestic battery, strangulation, rape, sexual battery, invasion of privacy, criminal stalking, criminal recklessness, criminal confinement, burglary, and residential entry. Okay, that's good. Give people a chance to kind of, if it was a heat of the moment thing, you can give them a chance to calm down and reflect on their behavior. I kind of like that. I'm good with that. GPS tracking will be prohibited by protective order. A law introduced by the state Senate this year addressed criminal use of GPS tracking. A prohibition on tracking devices is now included in the list of conditions a court can impose with an order of protection. The law also addresses the use of tracking devices to stalk someone, increasing the charge from a level 6 to a level 5 felony if such device is used. Okay, all you stalkers, let it go. Colleges can't refuse to provide a transcript if you owe them money. This is actually a great thing. If a current or former student of a state or private educational institution owes a debt of $1,000 or less, the school can't refuse to provide a transcript. Institutions are also not allowed to charge a higher fee for transcripts because of the debt. I like that. I like it. They'll pay it when they get to it. And it's not like they don't want to pay. I know I'm still paying on my student loans. I wish I didn't have them, but I pay them every month. Well, at least I'd been suspended since the COVID, but I'll be picking back up again. automatic speed cameras coming to highway work sites. A new law allows NDOT to establish a worksite speed control pilot program in as many as 4 construction zones in Indiana when workers are present. Hoosiers caught speeding 11 miles per hour or more over the speed limit will receive a warning the first time. A second violation will cost them $75, and additional violations will cost them $150. Y'all, slow down in those construction zones, okay? Just slow down, be cool, you'll be through it in a minute. I know it seems like Indiana, with their planning, they have construction zones that tie up the entire city for the entire summer, but we got to get this infrastructure updated, so please, and we want to make sure that we're protecting the people who are out there working. All right, police can enforce a 25-foot buffer around investigating officers starting July 1st. If police have ordered someone to stop approaching and the individually knowingly or intentionally comes within 25 feet of an emergency incident, the person can be charged with a Class C misdemeanor. Now, listen, guys, the technology is getting better. If you want to film a police officer making an arrest, stand back and get your Zoom on. Listen, we don't need y'all going to jail trying to catch these clowns doing whatever they doing, okay? So stand back, get your Zoom out, and make it happen. All right, food delivery apps need a restaurant's permission to include them to help give restaurant owners more control over their services and customer experience. A new law is meant to deter scrapping their information to include them on apps like Grubhub and DoorDash. Instead, these apps must get the restaurant's permission before listing them on the app. That's okay. All right. I mean, that way the restaurant knows, it's good to go, and they can use them, and they can alter the menus for delivery items versus in-store items. I kind of like it. A voter or family member must request an absentee ballot application. The vote by mail and absentee ballot voters must be eligible through an excuse requirement. After July 1st, applications will no longer be sent out without a request from a voter or family member. Employees at nursing homes or assisted living facilities can no longer send the request. Guys, I'm a little worried about this one because we have a lot of folks who are in assisted living who don't get out. They may not have access to the internet or may not even know how to use the internet. Now we can't even help these folks cast their vote, their constitutional right to vote. I'm a little squirrely about that one. In fact, I'm a little disturbed. A lot of our seniors are going to miss the opportunity to cast their vote. Thank you, Republicans, for being such awesome humans. Not. Only dogs and miniature ponies can be service animals. A new law cracks down on the type of animals that can be designated as service animals. It also sets requirements for when service animals are allowed to in public spaces. Previously, the law did not define the type of animal that could be a service animal. Sorry, your service cat will no longer work. Sorry, y'all. The law reads that a public accommodation shall make reasonable modification in policies, practices, and procedures to permit the use of miniature horses by an individual with a disability. Okay, the miniature horse. If that's what you're using, now they have to make accommodations. And I'm going to leave there's a whole bunch more, but I'm going to read a few more. Pharmacists can write prescriptions for birth control. Adults seeking birth control in the form of pills, patches, or rings can get a prescription written and filled by a pharmacist after a full health screening. The law will help those who can't get a prompt appointment with a physician, work difficult hours, or can't get into the doctor's office, receive short-term contraceptive. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then the ACLU filed a lawsuit. Prisoners can't get gender-affirming care, surgery. The Department of Corrections don't currently provide gender-affirming surgery with the exception of federal case. Still, legislators move forward with a new law to prevent imprisoned people from using state tax dollars for the procedures. So there you have it. There's quite a few more on there. If you guys want to visit the IndyStar website or go on the IGA.gov website to see what bills will be taking effect July 1st, I think it's important you should know because you could be caught slipping. That's all I'm saying. I really want to make sure y'all understand about that 11 miles per hour in a construction zone because that could be your life. All right, I'm always excited about my sponsors, and of course, we have Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. I just love Bohm's Unique Boutique. So you guys, if you get an opportunity, go check their website out. Maybe you want to get some, custom made items. They make some really cool mugs. Look them up. They do all the work there. They're great people and they're just awesome Democrats. All right. Now, of course, I'm here to always help Democrats. At Black Pearl Studios, Black Pearl IT Solutions, we're here to help you with your digital content. You guys know where to find me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I have everything you need to shoot your 30, 60, 90-second video for social media that you can get that information out. And if if the audio is fantastic and we do a great job, which I'm certain we will, you'll be able to use that wherever you would like. So guys, hit me up and my rates are reasonable. So let's talk about it. Scan the QR code and let's talk about how we can get you out there on the interweb. All right. Y'all, I'm so excited at how many women every year are stepping up to run for office. And it's not, I don't care what office you run for. I believe that we have influence everywhere. But when we run for executive offices, I get a little extra excited. I know as women, we are decision makers. I know as women, we have the opportunity to influence our community and change lives. So the fact that we have another candidate on today that is running for the mayor of her city, I am super duper excited. Y'all, welcome to the show. Coming all the way from West Lafayette, running to be the mayor of West Lafayette, Erin Easter. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dana. I'm so happy to be here tonight.
So I got to ask this first question. What would it mean to you to be a woman running the city of West Lafayette as mayor?
Well, fortunately, I will not be the first and only woman. We have a history of strong female leadership within the city of West Lafayette. Both our longest serving mayor was Mayor Sonia Marjoram. She served the city for 24 years. And I think 2004 was her final year in office. So I was going back quite a while for those 24 years previous. And then we had Jan Mills right after that as well. So we have had a strong history of Democratic female leadership within the city, which is great. But I think it's also important that, you're a role model for other people who are looking up to you, that you are collaborative in your decision making, and that you are sensitive to the issues that are really difficult within communities. And I think not exclusively, but I think women really lead well in those places.
I 100% agree. And I will be glad when Indianapolis follows West Lafayette and we get someone other than my typical white men, especially with
a lot of great women in Indy.
We really do. And we have we got a black population of 30%. I mean, my goodness, and women outnumber men. So ladies in Indy, don't give up. We're going to run. We're going to be like West Lafayette. All right, Erin, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Sure. So I have lived in Greater Lafayette since 1997, when I moved here with my family. We had lived all over the U.S. previous to that. I was born in Santa Barbara, California, lived in Denver, some of the western states for a little while, grew up in Florida. So I got to watch out for stingrays and dolphins when I was a kid. And then I moved to Indiana in 1995. My mother is originally from Indiana,
okay,
and she missed the seasons and the snow, and she wanted to come home. So that is what brought me to Indiana. What kept me here is a different story.
Okay.
So I went to Purdue University. Boiler up. Happy to have gone to the university. But when I graduated, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do in life. So I was hanging out, trying to figure out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do when I grew up. And it was in 2008 that Barack Obama was running for president of the United States. And so I signed up to be a 6-month unpaid intern in a battleground state. So I spent those first 6 weeks setting up campaign offices around Ohio and really setting the stage for that next phase of campaigning in local communities for the Obama campaign. And they were in every county in nearly every state
Right.
In the United States. They had a really, really intensive ground game structure.
Right.
And on week 2, the man who became my boss said, "Hey, what are you doing from now until November? I'd like you to stick around."
Wow.
So I became a paid staffer, and I worked in New Philadelphia, Ohio, which is in Tuscarawas County, just about 30 minutes south of Canton.
Okay.
And I ran a campaign office there along with my colleagues in our 10-county region. And every state has, glowing, glittery parts, and every state has parts that are maybe struggling a little bit more and maybe a little rusty as you're approaching the Rust Belt. But what I learned was just how incredibly fortunate we were in the community that I came from. And I saw elected officials in Greater Lafayette who worked together. I saw community members who cared about issues, and they were willing to put their time, their talent, their energy into solving those problems. And I saw a community that, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of who you are, what you believe, if you were working on the same side of an issue with somebody, you were an ally.
Okay.
And they would make space for you there. And so it was a community where there was just an incredible amount of opportunity to get involved and change the community that you were working in. So I still applied for jobs in DC. Let's be honest.
Right. I think everyone has, those of us that are junkies, like political junkies, we think about those jobs, but I always tell people Indiana's own doesn't travel very well, so I'll just stay here.
Yeah, so I was applying for those jobs, and a position became available here. Okay. And I spent 9 years with that organization before coming to the city, and I got the opportunity to work on political issues, both at the local level, the state level, and the federal level that impacted our community, and coordinated delegations of local citizens to go advocate on behalf of those issues. I had the opportunity to work with our small business community, which is thriving and wonderful, and always needs the support and attention of the community. And so that was very rewarding. But the other part that I got to work on, which was a really incredible in shaping how I think about communities and how we move forward with those communities, and this approaches all manner of development related things, which is what I do currently. Quality of life matters, and it matters a lot. And we went through a very intensive community analysis to look at who we are as Greater Lafayette, what we want to be as Greater Lafayette, and what barriers we have. And so there are certain things. At the time I was, I was probably in my late 20s. And as someone who was young in their late 20s, maybe even mid 20s at the time, I knew what some of the issues were because I was a young person who hadn't been here my whole life and who made a conscious decision to be here, but recognized some of the things that we were lacking in terms of amenities, in terms of recreation, participation within the local community. So that was an amazing opportunity that I had to work with that plan and with a committee, is more like a commission, I guess, to implement that plan and make meaningful change in a lot of different categories. And we didn't have to be the ones doing the work, but we had to advocate for that work to happen within all of our communities. So things like continuing the mission of protecting the Wabash River and its health and wellness, and providing recreation opportunities for it, and to see it as an amenity that connects our communities instead of something that divides it.
Right. And
so working through our Wabash River Enhancement Corporation in the work that they do there, that specifically turns toward the river and makes sure that we're protecting our watershed from an environmental perspective, but also using it as a recreational element within our community. And then that's really attractive to a lot of people, especially young people who are looking for where their next place to live is.
Right, right. But was there, I mean, you said it was like you were on a board or commission. How did you learn about or become familiar with being on the board? Was it your work with the nonprofit or the other organization you work with? Is that how you found out about it?
Well, I was actually staff, so
Okay.
I oversaw the entire program and the planning. I was probably a 25-person board that implemented all of the work, that did the planning, identified projects that were really important, and also helped find funding and public support.
So was there something in your education or in your upbringing that brought you to public service or that made you want to be in public service? Because it sounds like even though you may not have been sure, like most 23, 22-year-olds are not sure what they want to do with their lives, right? You still went in the direction of, oh, let me do this campaign, and then just, was there something in your upbringing that made you be civically minded like that?
I think, certainly my mother. I mean, she's a civically minded person. She's a person who is passionate about the role that government plays in people's lives and being supportive of people, and finding ways that local government, or any government for that matter, supports people in their ability to become the best of themselves, and doesn't put up barriers or restrictions to being active, full, participating members of society. And that obviously happens in a lot of ways. You mentioned one of those things in the intro for news today. But she was absolutely one of those people who always encouraged me to go vote, even in midterms and in the primary when I maybe didn't understand it as well as I should have. And she brought me along with her to vote when I was young. So, I got an experience of going to the polls and actively engaging. I was, I knew where to find things. I knew how to read a bill and understand what that legislation really meant. That being said, being in local government is just a completely different world, and one that I think is kind of hard to understand until you're in it.
Absolutely.
It is a different world. I love it, but man, it was a learning curve for sure.
Absolutely. And, and you're not saying anything I haven't already heard, because, all politics is local, and, your municipal government is directly impacting your day today. Guys, listen, we're talking to Erin Easter. This is Indiana's own Dana Black on Turn Left. If you guys are liking what she's talking about, please click on her donate link so you can donate to her campaign, because every campaign requires some change, y'all. Some change. $5, $10, every dollar will help. And running a mayoral campaign is not cheap. So I challenge everyone to please click on the donate link and donate whatever you can. So let's talk about this real quick. What you had all this time working on these boards and commissions and seeing, what could happen and what couldn't happen. What was the catalyst? What was the thing of all the different things that you said, you know what, I'm running for mayor. I'm doing this. Enough.
Sure. Through the work for the Greater Lafayette Commerce was the organization I worked for 9 years previous to coming to the city. And organizations like that are excellent at introducing you to the entire community. And I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people, a lot of really incredible public servants, a lot of great business people, and a lot of people that, even though our politics didn't align, we were absolutely committed as a community. And you'll find this everywhere in Tippecanoe County, regardless of the politics, everyone is committed to being civil. And we know that we absolutely cannot succeed without each other. We can fight all we want, but that's never going to get us what we want.
Right.
So, and that's a standout feature of where we are, without question. So I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people that I wouldn't have had the chance to otherwise, who play really important roles in our community, especially in West Lafayette. And I actually, at the request of our current mayor, John Dennis, who For those of you who don't know him, he and I are on opposite sides of the aisle, as it were. And unbeknownst to me, probably for a little while, John was really taking note and making sure that he was preparing me for a potential run if I decided it was something I wanted to do.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. We take this, we take the best candidate policy very seriously here in Tippecanoe County.
Love it.
Yeah. So not only is John's support incredibly meaningful from a political perspective, personally, it's very meaningful. He is one of the most thoughtful and respectful people I've ever known. He cares about people and their rights and their ability to live full, healthy lives. And he is one of those humans that you might, if you just had a funny interaction with him, you might go, oh, wait, he's the mayor? Because
Right.
he is so committed to just being genuinely himself.
And you know what? Before you go further, before you go a little further, I want to tell you, I'm feeling what you're saying right now about we may differ ideologically or politically, but I was just at the ILM, the Indiana League of Municipal Clerk Treasurers Conference, and when you talk to the clerks, because in most cases those clerks are running right alongside the mayors, and it's a citywide race. But when you talk to these clerks, it's not about party. It's about how do you serve the community. And so I'm loving the fact that you're telling me another story after spending a week talking to all these clerks, and a mayor saw your potential and saw how great you would be for the city, and look past the political aisle and said, let me help her. I mean, that's pretty dope.
Good people are good people.
Right.
That is something that we could all fare a little bit better with recognizing that as we get into these political debates and spectrums, and particularly for Democrats who, are not majority seat holders in a lot of places, that if somebody has good policy directives, if they're doing things for the right reason and they are committed to serving the public, they should have your consideration. And even if you decide not to support them and go that way, that's fine. But without question, there are a lot of really incredible leaders out there in the state, and they are doing this for the right reason, even though it is difficult and it is not for the faint of heart.
No.
They're committed to being there to serve their constituents, and that's a meaningful thing.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. That's a great story, and thank you for sharing that. And I love that you were, everyone knows I'm partisan. Like, everybody knows, like, I'm so dagburn partisan, but every time I hang out with the clerks, I'm like, but I love them. I know they're Republicans, but I love them. And it's hard. It's hard. But,
Yep.
let's dive into some policy issues now. Tippecanoe County and West Lafayette, I mean, it's a university town. It obviously has a sustainable source of revenue with the university being there. But let's talk about what West Lafayette needs. Now, you've made the decision to go ahead and run. So what are you going to be fighting for once you were elected? What are the issues you're going to tackle?
Sure. Before we leave this, since you mentioned city clerks, shout out to Santa Booker, our West Lafayette city clerk, another person who is just absolutely committed to representing her community and her constituents well. And she was gone this week because she was at the clerks conference.
So she was hanging out with me. Ask her, did she go to the karaoke party? Just all you got to do. Just ask her, did she go to the karaoke party? I'm not telling y'all. If y'all wasn't there, y'all didn't get to see it. But go ahead.
I don't know if she's going to answer that one. I will. So what am I interested in? So the city of West Lafayette has been just in this incredible growth phase at the moment. And that is wonderful, right? That is a really incredible thing to be in, especially given what a quaint community we have been for such a long time, and that most of our economic growth happens in our sister city across the river in Lafayette. So when Mayor Dennis took office nearly 16 years ago, there were a few things that were a focus for him. And part of that was redeveloping the major thoroughfare through West Lafayette, which at the time was State Road 26. It's now called State Street. And we partnered with Purdue University in a relatively complex but brilliant solution for both parties to partner to redevelop that street. Since that time, we have realized billions of dollars of new capital investment. And we are seeing the growth of the university, we're seeing the growth of our population, and we're seeing the growth in companies who would like to work adjacent to Purdue University.
Okay.
So when it comes to economic development, that is without question a policy-based thing that can divide people. I am extraordinarily proud to say that the companies that we've attracted to our community are high-paying, really good jobs. We're well above the kind of the state and national average in compensation for people, which is important, and certainly important if you are under consideration on any level for public support of that organization and of the training and recruitment of those people to come to our community. So with all of that successful growth, our neighborhoods and housing becoming an issue, we have been aggressive about building new purpose-built student housing. So we have quite a few beds within the university network, about 15,000 for Purdue University, but we are at 51,000 students, which is a lot of students.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, there was a housing crisis with the Purdue students. They didn't have a place to lay their heads.
Well, they all found a place, but that was a bit of a stressful situation, I'm sure, for everyone involved. And we want to make sure that anyone who comes to our community, whether it's for the university, whether it's for business, whether it's visiting for a Purdue game, any kind of game, match, any sports you're into, we want to make sure you have a great experience here. So we have been focused for the moment on building new purpose-built student housing, which has garnered a lot of growth within our community and is spurring things like new parks, more comprehensive trail systems. So as we become a more densely populated city, we have those green space outlets that we need and the recreational spaces that you really, really need when you have a lot of people packed into a really small space. That is mostly pedestrian, though not exclusively. In our downtown area, we have a lot of students who are walking to and from class every day. So managing that growth, protecting our neighborhoods, and making sure that people who would like to live in West Lafayette can find a home in West Lafayette. That has been a bit of a housing crunch. So that's an issue. And as we continue to face those issues, we need to make sure that we have housing available for all.
Well, unfortunately, the housing crisis, every person I've talked to this year who are running in municipal races have all mentioned the lack of housing, a lack of affordable housing. It is up and down the state. It is up, everywhere. So it sounds like, we have growth in some places and we're not doing so well in other places. And unfortunately, we don't have enough representation in the State House to maybe, funnel some of those dollars down to help these municipalities with some of this housing crunch, because everyone is talking about it. Everyone.
So through the IADC, the Ready Grant program that came through a year or two ago, I can't remember when those came through the state. I would assume many communities, but certainly our region and our communities put a focus on housing. So that helps matching dollars to pay for infrastructure needed for new neighborhood growth and development. In the city of West Lafayette, we have not a substantial amount of undeveloped land.
Okay.
So when we look at housing, we probably see it in a little bit more of an urban context than you might. And that's within the city limits, because those are limited at the moment. And there's not a lot of space within them still.
Right.
But we have an incredible opportunity with our downtown master plan and some of our areas adjacent to campus that are ripe for redevelopment, to have the opportunity to really to focus on that and look for different housing typologies. So while we have lots of student housing and we will continue to have lots of student housing, we're focusing a bit more on some of the opportunities with market rate apartments, opportunities with building townhomes or condos, that we can build this new downtown urban core, and offer a lot of different types of houses for a lot of people, to be able to find a great place to live. So whether you are looking for a condo and you want to have your kids in the school systems in West Lafayette, or if you are tired of taking care of that lawn,
baby, whoo, that's why I'm in a condo today. I'm like, look,
move to a beautiful spot by the river, where you have walkable amenities. So that's something that we are really excited about and really focused on, what the future of that area looks like. So
I love it. So
yeah, it's going to be great.
We talked about economic growth and development, and we've talked about housing. What other issues you want to hit on?
Yeah, kind of the other side of growth is preserving how we feel as a community, right? It's a relatively small community. Our census numbers would put us at 45,000. With our Purdue students, we know it's significantly more than that. But making sure that our neighborhoods feel like neighborhoods, that we still have neighborhood parks, that we have a community that looks after each other and takes care of each other, which I think West Lafayette does quite well. They're a very active and engaged community. So from an education perspective, we have kind of a lifelong learning network. So continuing to foster that, I think, is very important to connecting people to their community, and people feeling like they're engaged and they know their neighbors. Yeah. They know people in their neighborhood. And then on the other side of that scale of education is early childhood education.
Ooh, I love it.
We are, as a community, and not just in West Lafayette, but Tippecanoe County, our region as a whole, we are committed to finding innovative solutions to early childhood education that is affordable and high quality. So what does that look like? If you can go to your local burger joint and make just as much money there for a job that you can easily clock in and clock out, and you don't have to worry about some of the things that go along with taking care of someone's child, and you can make the same amount of money, that seems a little skewed. And so we have to find innovative ways. Certainly us as a region, we're working on it. But I think for the wellness and betterment of the entire state, people who are taking care of our children should be well compensated, fairly compensated. It is a difficult job. I am a parent, so I know it's a difficult job, and we will not find ourselves with the workforce that we need without finding pathways for parents to get out and work.
Absolutely. Especially since, I mean, again, I can't help myself, so you'll have to forgive me, especially since we're making it difficult for women to handle their own reproductive health care. Once the babies are here, we got to find a way so they can continue with their lives and their children be well taken care of. I love that you have put an emphasis on that. Something that I am kind of interested in, West Lafayette and Lafayette are probably our only twin cities, right? We're those are the only cities, I think, where there's a relationship that's pretty strong, right? What is it like, what has it been like for you to work with your sister city? And then what are some other things that you plan to do in the future with your sister city?
Great question. So our really strong relationship goes back many, administrations and mayors. I mentioned Sonia Marjoram, and her mayoral colleague across the river, Jim Reilly. They both served for a very long time, and they then started partnering and working together. Now, Lafayette was much larger, and still maintains its status as the larger of the two cities. But that partnership and collaboration started then. Where I think it really accelerated was with the election of Mayor Roseworski in Lafayette and Mayor Dennis in West Lafayette.
Okay.
For those of you who have not heard their story, they grew up together in the squad car. They were both police officers serving the city of Lafayette. for many years. Mayor Dennis, I think, retired from the police force after 23 years and as the deputy chief of police. And I believe Mayor Rosworski was just 4 years before that. He retired as a captain when he was elected to office.
Okay.
So they grew up together. They love each other like brothers. And so we have been really careful that when we move forward, we keep our colleagues updated on what we're doing. We don't want anybody to be surprised. That's never what you want to do for your supporters and your friends. So that relationship has always been important. But I think, at the moment we have two people who've been able to just call each other any point in time. And Mayor Rosworski has been very gracious in providing his advice and his expertise and his support for me as well. So I know that we will be able to continue a strong relationship, and be able to partner on things that are really important to both of our cities. I have a colleague, we jokingly call each other the so-and-so of our opposite city, but a colleague who also works in economic development for the city of Lafayette. And we have conversations all of the time about what policies we think would be beneficial for both of our communities. What could we implement that would, raise the quality and standard of living in Greater Lafayette, regardless of what city you live in. And I absolutely believe that between the two cities in Tippecanoe County, we will continue that track record and really thoughtfully consider things that we think will improve the quality of life within our community.
I love it. It sounds like y'all got a love fest going on over there in Tippecanoe County. I need to get up there a little bit more because and the reason why I was curious is because here in Indianapolis, we don't have any sister cities. Ain't nobody across White River. We sprawl White River. We do have some, towns within our Marion County, but they literally are nestled within the city. And then, Hamilton County don't want to get down with us. So, ain't nothing happen. I just thought it was an interesting thing because when you said sister cities, I thought about the twin cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I was like, oh, I wonder if it's very much, similar, obviously on a smaller scale, because I think collectively the twin cities are around collectively are around 600,000 total. But that's interesting because, again, it's a way for you guys to maybe say, hey, we need more housing. How do you, help us out with some of that? And, they may need something from the university, and there's a way to pair and share the workload, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. That's pretty dope. So,
absolutely. I mean, we are small enough. I mean, our community is 200,000 people. Our next largest city is, a bit of a drive, not a terrible drive, but it's not immediately close. You still have to drive a little bit. Yeah. So we're not naturally going to just grow into them and be able to partner and take over, right? So we have to work together to solve the problems that we have. I think our community is a little scrappy in that way, that we aren't waiting for anybody to save us. We're going to build the raft ourselves.
I love it. So what?
You can't do that without your partners.
Right. So what other? You talk a lot about economic development and some of the economics of running a city, but every city has other things that obviously are big. Law enforcement, criminal justice reform, those are huge. I know that West Lafayette or Purdue had an incident a couple of years ago where a police officer or a campus police officer made a quick decision, and I'm not going to pass judgment on that decision. I'll let the courts do that. But talk about the feeling in your community about your law enforcement, and talk about how the students feel when they're coming in contact, because you'll be the person that's going to be budgeting these folks. And if something goes awry, they're going to be looking at Miss Mayor Easter. So talk about your relationship with law enforcement there, and some of the things that you see, some things you like, some things you don't like.
Sure. So I currently work for the city of West Lafayette. So not only are these people, our public safety representatives, people that I work with every day, but they're also members of my community. I see them at our kids' baseball games. I run into them at the ice cream shop. one of our ice cream shops is actually owned by a married couple. One is a firefighter and one is a police officer, and
Wow.
they both serve on our force. I have been incredibly impressed with my colleagues. And so let me set this up a little bit. I should have mentioned this first. In West Lafayette, we have 2 police departments and 2 fire departments. The university has their own. We have ours through the city proper.
Okay.
And we have had to plan and be very cognizant about how we respond. So let's say there's a fire on campus and their fire truck is already responding somewhere. We will respond. So we have this, staged effect that everybody's working together to make sure everybody's covered, right? So if one of us can't respond, the other is there as backup to make sure that a crisis situation is dealt with, that a house fire doesn't get any worse or is put out completely, hopefully. I have been very proud of the work that our police department has done. Our current chief is very in tune with what is happening in police forces across the United States. And he's been wonderful at elevating people of color, elevating women, making sure that the force can be as representative of the community as possible. Granted, we can't, you have to want to be a police officer. When
Hello.
But they have taken training and de-escalation very, very seriously. We had a case a few months ago where there was a gentleman who was into mental health crisis. I mean, he was really struggling, and he was armed and was showing officers his weapon and putting himself in a situation where he could have done harm to himself, not just because of the weapon, but also the weather and where he was. And our officers have been trained very well, and they know how to de-escalate a situation.
Excellent.
They know how to make someone feel safe, and they know how to get them the help that they need. A couple of years ago, we hired a woman who serves all of our police department as she's a social worker by training. So we have someone on staff that in an instance where it's not a crime and maybe it's a mental health issue or it's just somebody that needs help, we're not sending someone with a badge and a gun. We're sending someone who can, with kind of the same skills and abilities, find them the care that they need. And that's a great way to compassionately serve your people without bringing the full force of the law.
Thank you. Because that's all, even though the marketing for the slogan was kind of bad, that's exactly what defunding the police was all about, right? I mean, and I know that you're not doing that, but instead of that salary going to another armed officer, you guys were intentional in making sure that you had somebody that can deal with the mental side of things that wasn't necessarily going to be ready to go. And that's exactly what the movement was about. But because it got all mucked up with the messaging, right? The messaging got mucked up. That's what they were talking about. We don't want to put our police officers in positions where they have to answer for things that they are not trained to answer for. We want them to be, their training teaches them to do one thing. A social worker is trained to do something else. And so I'm super excited. I didn't even know you guys did that. Kudos to West Lafayette. Kudos to all of your colleagues for emphasizing the importance of, okay, wait, let's send somebody else, or even go with the police officer. Let's assess it together. Thank you for that. That is like the best, right? So,
not every crisis requires the same response, and I think it's very wise of the leadership in our police department to recognize that and to be able to provide the community what they need when they need it, and also to really show up as a resource within our community, and not just the guys that are waiting for you to speed by them.
I love it. So another thing that you're going to have to do is negotiate with the council. You can suggest a budget. but you still got to get it approved. Talk about what your leadership style is like and how you plan to work with. You guys have a 9-member council.
Correct.
That means that's 9 different personalities, 9 different agendas. How does your leadership style fit with negotiating with what maybe the council wants versus what the mayor's office might want?
Sure. So we will have some returning members to our council. We will have in a handful of seats some new members, and particularly younger ones. When we annexed Purdue University, we created and still maintain after at least one census, maintain a student district, which is really important to us that we have student representation at the local government level. So between that and some of our neighborhoods that are more heavily populated with students, what an incredible way to engage young people in government and show them the positive impact that they can make. But 2, what a great thing for our community to also hear the concerns of students. And that benefit is a two-way street. So outside of that, there are a lot of things in local government that are really nuanced. I come from the development world. So, when it comes to TIF districts, man, we could talk all night about TIF districts and how those are funded and all of the fun legislative part that goes into that. But not every council member is going to come into council being an expert in those things.
Right.
Our job as staff, and even as the mayor to some extent, is to bring everybody up to the same knowledge level that you have about these issues that we're all going to have to work on together.
Okay.
So what does that look like? Maybe it looks like training sessions. Maybe it looks like really open and consistent communication. I meet with the president of our council with some regularity. I also meet with our representative on our area plan commission, which is our metropolitan planning organization. And we talk about things that are coming up on our agendas, items that might be contentious, places where we really want to make sure that they're supportive of the initiatives that we're putting forward, and that we are all seeing eye to eye about an issue. It also provides the opportunity to clarify any misconceptions, answer any questions, and garner a bit of understanding about an issue that might be too complex to have a conversation about at a council meeting, but is critically important for all of us to be able to answer questions about. So you really have to work with everyone, regardless of whether you agree or not, and regardless of whether you're the same party or not. You have to show up and make sure that you, as in the mayor, are preparing your council with the information they need to make decisions. Now, the decision they make is their own.
Sure.
But you definitely have to prepare people with the information that they need to make those decisions. And
so you mentioned, sometimes they may not agree with you. How will you manage? How will you manage the disappointment? Obviously, we're going to celebrate the wins. We're all together. But how will you manage, like, if there is a rift between the council and the mayor's office? Because it happens all the time in Indianapolis.
Sure. Well, I hope that there would never be an issue so big that we can't all continue to come together and work for the betterment of the citizens of West Lafayette. That would be my first thing. If we're not solving problems together, we're not doing our citizens a service. So that's one thing. There will be wins and there will be things that we're just not successful with. So we have to remember, at the end of the road, does this benefit the citizens of West Lafayette, or is it a benefit of another kind? And every single time we have to come back to this will create a better place for all of us to live.
I love it. Okay, last question. What are you what has you up at night? Say you win, you're thinking about winning, but it keeps you up at night. Oh my God, I'm the mayor. What's that one thing that keeps you up at night?
Oh boy.
I know. I like to throw a curveball in there every now and then.
I think there are two things. One is just providing consistent services to citizens, and that really starts with having a staff who is ready to serve citizens every single day. That they remember, basic customer service things. When that phone rings, the person who you're talking to is the person that makes all of this possible. Right. So they're the ones that pay their taxes, which fund us. And government is a service to serve people. So remembering and just instilling that sense of serving your citizens, serving the community that you work for, serving the community that you live in, and having enough staff that are well trained and ready to handle that job every day. We have staffing issues just like everyone does, and the solution to that is making people feel valued, giving them the quality of life and the benefits that you can afford as a government, and making sure that they are appreciated and that they know how much they mean to the impact of many people's lives. It's easy to say something is just a paycheck, but it's not. It's not when you it's not when you are inspecting buildings to make sure that they are compliant and safe and livable for people, by keeping our streets clean and appropriately managing water and trash. Those things are the things that nobody really wants to think about, but they're so critically important to creating a safe and healthy community, and just making sure that we have the staff to deliver on that promise. I think public service is a great opportunity, and sometimes there are callings higher than a paycheck.
I love it. And that's
we all like a paycheck, let's be honest.
I think that is like the perfect way to close it out, because if those are the things that are keeping you up, that means you'll be successful at them. So there you go. All right, now tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. So if you want to learn more about me, you can find me at erineaster.com. Initially, you can shoot me an email. There's contact information for me there. I will be out at Outfest and Global Fest and some events that we have here in West Lafayette. We'll be setting up an office soon, mid-July. Not just for me, but any of our down ballot, if you can say that, in a municipal race candidates.
Absolutely.
So making sure that our other candidates have support, and we're running a coordinated Democratic campaign. So if you want to, get under the big tent, we'll help.
I love it.
So we'll be working together on all of those things. You can find us at our office and working hard, knocking on a bunch of doors.
So do you have a way for people to sign up to be volunteers to come help you with these days of action?
Yes, absolutely. On the website, there's an opportunity to volunteer, to subscribe for any news. So we'll send out dates that we're knocking doors or that any other candidates are. There is a place to donate, and then also to learn about the policy initiatives I'm concerned about.
I love it. Thank you so much, Erin Easter, candidate for West Lafayette, Mayor of West Lafayette, for joining me today. This was a great conversation. It's obvious that you know your city. Like, it is obvious that you know all the nooks and crannies and backdoor, updoor. You are well versed in how your city is run. I think you have a great opportunity to have a huge impact in your community. And you have such a kind heart. The way that you look at things, you have a kind heart. And I'm be honest with you, Indiana likes our kind of calmer folk. They don't want to elect me. Like, they're like, no, you too wild and loud. But you have a nice, calm demeanor that is, you explain things. I think you're going to be very, very successful, no matter what. Yeah, but I believe you're going to be successful. I think the city of West Lafayette should elect you. So click on our link, donate to our campaign. I'm excited for her campaign. Okay, guys, I got a story to tell. This is July 4th weekend. I don't know if y'all saw the TikTok video, but be careful with the fireworks. I mean, my goodness, did you see the one where the firework went underneath the van and blew up the van? Please, 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 y'all, be careful. And with the air quality as bad as it is, maybe we bypass it this year. I don't know. I'm not, because I know how y'all feel about y'all's fireworks. But listen, just be careful. Watch your kiddos. Make sure I don't want to hear about somebody lost a finger or a toe or an eye because y'all weren't careful. Okay, so just be careful. 4th of July weekend. And I will not be on next week because I am super excited. Sometimes, we as Black women often talk about how we are not always mentioned when we're not in the room. And it can be disheartening because, it's not like we don't have the same talents and the same abilities as anyone else in the world. It's just that we aren't considered. And I have to tell you a story that I can't say that to be true about me anymore. So Indianapolis has a sister city in Cologne, Germany. The Indy Pride has a sister city. The Cologne contingency came to Indianapolis for our Indy Pride a couple weeks ago, and Indy is sending a contingency to Cologne. Now, I do a lot of stuff, but I'm not necessarily associated directly with Indy Pride or the Indiana Youth Group. I just know some really amazing people that work on those boards. And they were having the conversation about who we need one other person to go. Who should we go? And my president of Indiana Stonewall Democrats and dear friend of mine, Katie Doyle, said, what about Dana Black? So guys, I'm not going to be on the show next week. We're not going to have a show next week because I'm going to be in Cologne, Germany. I am super excited about this opportunity. I'm going to go to Cologne Pride. I've already met most of the people who are our hosts. We had an amazing time. But the blessings, y'all, you never know who's watching the work that you do. And like I said, I don't get mentioned in a lot of conversations, but I did this time. And I could not be more grateful than to have this opportunity to go and represent my city of Indianapolis, the LGBTQ plus folk of Indianapolis in Cologne, Germany. I promise I will do y'all proud. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. I'll be gone for a couple of weeks, but I'll be back. I'll do better with my slate, and we're going to get all the candidates in. People have been asking me when they can get on. I ain't gonna lie, I've been traveling, so it's been a little hard, but this show is committed to bringing the candidates to you and showing you how you can help these candidates win these elections. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, Erin. Thank you so much for hanging around. I will holler at y'all next week, or no, in a couple weeks. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.